Welcome to another episode of the Achieve Podcast, the show where we highlight leaders, creators, and entrepreneurs who are building meaningful businesses, shaping their industries, and having an impact. I'm Taylor, your host, and excited today to be joined by Kyle Hafen, founder and CEO, and Mike Ruffell, COO of Structured Homes, and you can find them at structuredhomes.com. That's STRXURE homes.com. So guys, give us the backstory as we've talked off camera a little bit with what you guys are doing and the change you're bringing to the home industry. How did you get here and who are you currently serving?
Perfect. Well, first of all, Taylor, thank you for having us. I'm actually a little bit excited about this, maybe even a lot excited, truth be told. I know you and Mike have a history, and it was good to connect with you the other day, but appreciate the opportunity to be here.
My pleasure. And so tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing with these homes.
Yeah, so Structure Homes. There's always a good story, and every good story starts with, the typical line, so there I was. So there I was at my dad's house. We were having just a family event, and he said, hey, do you have any interest in buying a shipping container business? And I said, a what? He's like, a shipping container business. And I've been in real estate and land development for about 25 years, and I peddled in some other entrepreneurial type things. And I said, yeah, that's probably a hard no. And he's like, well, it does pretty good. And I said, well, what does that mean? And we're from Southern Utah, close to Lake Powell. And he said, well, I think he's got a houseboat and he's got an airplane. He's got a pretty nice home. And I said, well, wait a second. You had me at houseboat. Like, give me the books. So he gave us the books, and we looked at them, and about the same time as we started looking at them, how algorithms work, I started seeing all these container homes popping up on Pinterest and Instagram, and I'm like, man, that's really cool. And it kind of dovetails with real estate land development, right? And so I'm like, yeah, maybe there's something here. So I asked him if they did much, customization, or if they did any tiny homes, and he said no. So we, solidified the deal and purchased a company, and immediately dove into fabricating and working on this idea of putting these container homes out there. They were so cool. And as we did that, we quickly learned some valuable lessons. As soon as you put two containers together, the structural integrity is compromised because you have to cut out a big side of that wall. And so you have to reinforce it with steel beams and headers, footers. And then you're basically rebuilding, what once was a perfect rectangle or square box, to make it, livable, to insulate it, to put power, electricity, so on and so forth in it. And the demand was actually quite high. There were a lot of people who were looking for, essentially it was a more affordable way to have a house. And we also met some, slight resistance with city and municipality ordinances and code in making sure that they were sound structures. Mm-hmm. And so through that process, it wasn't that it was too complicated, but as every great idea starts, there's got to be a better way. And so we kind of reverse engineered the concept and said, hey, let's start with the steel beams, the steel posts, the steel floors, and see if we can't build something that's similar to a container, but that is better. And that was about 3 years ago. And over the last 3 years, it has been one hell of a ride. I mean, it's been so fun and interesting and learning as we've taken this concept of a shipping container home completely changed. We are not a shipping container home company. We are a still built on site structure concept. And what we found is that we are more affordable. We're more eco-friendly. We have higher energy efficiency in our homes, and we build faster. And all of those things considering, we are more affordable than the traditional stick-built home.
Wow. That's crazy. And with being metal, I'm sure it's a lot more fire resistant as well.
Yeah, exactly. Really good point. Fire resistance is an interesting concept because through this process, about 6 months ago, I felt like I was onto something that could be like amazing.
Yeah.
And I've known Mike for a long time. I've coached his son for almost 10 years in baseball. Good friend of mine, and he was working for a company in northern Utah. And I realized I needed somebody, like I needed a dude, someone that understood the back end side of running a business. You know, we're a small organization, and that had the resources and contacts and even maybe more so than that, but the systems to help us become successful, because the interest level was just increasing and increasing. So I hit up Mike about 9 months ago, and I said, dude, I'm doing something really cool, really exciting. You know, would you consider, you know, maybe coming and jumping on board? And I'll never forget the way he looked at me and what he said. He's like, bro, I love my job. And I knew it didn't matter what I offered him financially. Like, there was no way I was going to get this guy. So we kept doing our thing, realizing that we needed some key players. And, you know, as fate would have it, November comes along, his career situation changes. I hit him up again, and he says, yeah, let's get together. And I know you know Mike and how detail oriented he is. So I tell him about what we're doing, tell him about the affordability of it. And he's just like, dude, there's no way this is true. So we spent the next 5 days from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 or 6 o'clock at night, locked in a conference room. And I felt like I was, you know, like a witness on being under trial. Like, it was crazy. I mean, he was so detailed in the questions that he was asking, and everything that he was able to find was just verifying the concept. And, you know, we figured out a way to make this work. And I think he got really excited. I'll let him tell that part. But it was a huge business decision, perhaps, you know, even better than coming up with this idea to bring Mike on board.
Well, that's about and thank you, Taylor. Like, I know you've heard this story. You know, I would be remiss if I didn't share. It has been an incredible ride. And I remember Kyle, in having these conversations with me, and yeah, I didn't believe it. And, I decided to, vet it up, down, left, right. And thank goodness I did, because it took me away from, the real parts of life. And at that time of my life, if I'm being really honest, it was hard, man. I was in a bad place mentally and emotionally, and depressed. And sometimes you don't know it until you look back. Mm-hmm. And I remember Kyle, bringing this to me, and I agreed to meet. And it was like this light turned on as I started to vet this and vet it more and get more excited and more passionate about the opportunity. It was just an incredible journey that I went down. And in the end, I landed in this place where it's like, this is real. This is more than real. And it's an opportunity. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say and wasn't excited about the opportunity to build wealth and to make money. We professionally, we do those things often to make money. But for me, the thing that got me more excited was just the opportunity that I really felt like we could revolutionize the housing market, and we could make real change. And that kind of hit me hard, because I have kids. I have adult kids, 30, 26-year-old daughters, and a 16-year-old son coming up, and they just can't afford to live, much less buy a house. And it's hard when we look at that harsh truth, but that's the position that so many people are in right now, and especially these kids. And so for us, I would say our mission is pretty simple, and it's just to make homeownership attainable again for the masses.
I love that. That is a great mission. Now, for your guys' organization, I know you said it was smaller, but how big is the team? How big is the organization right now?
So the funnest part, or maybe the second funnest part, come on. having your family involved. Maybe it's a fourth or fifth, but we've got my brother that works with us, and I've got one of my elder sons and my eldest daughter that work with us. We just brought on Mike's daughter a month ago to work with us, and then 2 more employees, and so we are a small organization, but we're passionate, and it's fun, it's exciting. Everybody feels kind of what's happening. It's been really fun sharing these growing pains and growing excitement with people that you care about.
And that was a big piece for me too, Taylor, when we're talking about teams. There's sometimes you hire your family out of necessity. Sometimes you hire a family because you just are that confident in this being a great opportunity. And, our daughters are the 2 that really come to mind. Macy, she had another good job. And, Kyle brought her here and was bold enough to say, set aside the schooling that you've done and the things that you've learned and come here and join us. And she's been an amazing asset to this company. And the first time I ever toured this we call it the yard, our facility here. First time I toured it, that was the first person I called as I was touring this was my daughter, who is she's big into business and systems, processes, pieces, parts that allow us to be duplicatable and repeatable. And, I called her because I was that passionate about it. And that speaks volumes when you do it for those reasons and not just out of necessity.
Yeah. Wow. Now, for you guys, what would you say is driving growth for the organization right now?
Yeah, that's, I would say it's pretty simple. And that is demand for housing. And, housing is just so almost unattainable. There's this massive shortage in Utah. If we just talk about Utah, we have 50,000 families right now that are just itching to get a house, and they absolutely cannot afford it. The cost of traditional construction is just so steep, and so that's the biggest challenge. But even a bigger challenge, I would say, is the mindset that people have. We are coming in, and for us to be able to say we have better home, still built, it's stronger. We don't have to worry about termites and fire and our value. So just how energy efficient our homes are is far beyond those of a traditional home. To be able to say those things and in the same sentence say that we are in almost all cases less money, more affordable, that's a great partnership.
Absolutely. Turning the construction industry on its head a little bit there.
Right.
With all those options. Now, what would you guys say the turning points, positive or negative, have molded the way you think about running the organization?
Yeah, so through this process, I think there's been multiple things. One thing in particular is just reevaluating the way that homes have been built. Everything in the world today is upgraded and updated with technology. Of course, you have homes that have some smart homes, as you want to call them, but really the home building process it hasn't been moved. There's no needle mover that's really said, hey, let's reevaluate what we're doing here. And through the process of what we're doing, you often find where the other concepts or the other typical process is flawed or even broken. When you're building stick-built homes, timing, hardly ever are they on time. Most often they're going over budget. The quality that you get from a home depends widely on what type and how good your crew is that's building the home. And those are all variables that are hard to control. And so when you're looking at the process of building something that's scalable and creating a system and utilizing the technology that we have now, so that when we go and build a house, we have almost zero waste. And because of that, we're able to build faster. We're not having to cut and reuse and do different things. And we're able to better predict what the price and cost is going to be, which gives developers, investors, the end home buyer or user more confidence in knowing that, hey, this is a house I want to build, and when I'm done, it's not going to be $60,000 or $80,000 more than what we started at, right? So all of that is building a better system that is duplicatable and that becomes more streamlined with innovation and technology and modern building concepts that are a little bit different. As Mike talked earlier, it is a mind shift, that there's a change in that we've got to educate people and help them understand that we can build whatever you want. We're building a 10,000 square foot barndominium. We're building 400 square foot, VRBO vacation rental cabins to 2,400 square foot 5-bed, 4-bath homes. And when people are starting to understand that, it's light bulb for them, and it really is a fun experience when they're able to actually start thinking, dang, I might be able to afford to buy a house.
And for me, it's two things. I mean, there's a lot more than two, but I don't know how many meetings we've had. We'll call it 30. And I can just say that we haven't had one bad meeting. We haven't had one meeting where someone hasn't actually, it hasn't clicked for them and they're not excited and passionate about what we're doing. And that's humbling and exciting. The other time we were meeting with a builder up north, and a builder that builds multiple hundred homes a year. And he paused. He's like, you guys, I don't know if you know what you have, but I would say this in short order is going to be $100 million business. And then he stopped and said, actually, I think it'll be $1 billion business. Now, I don't say that to impress I just say that to impress upon you and other people that for me at that point, it became this thing that it wasn't just about building homes anymore. It wasn't about this incredible opportunity. It was about opportunity to again revolutionize the home building market. And we're able to build a system and a process that we can duplicate and we can grow and help other people. And that is when it gets really exciting.
I love that. Everything else in the world is getting upgraded. So why not the housing industry?
Right.
You see it with the cars and then just more efficiently everything. So it makes sense. And I can see that what you're saying, Mike, is it being a very large industry and taking the old way they've been building homes for 100 years and changing that. Massive. Yeah. Now, as you guys try to grow and expand, what have been some of the biggest bottlenecks or obstacles that keep showing up?
I mean, I kind of sigh because anybody who thinks for a second that owning a business, that growing a business is a piece of cake, then they're just sadly mistaken, because it is hard. It is very hard, no matter how excited we can sit here and say that we are. It's tough. And so I would say, though, with that out of the way, that one of our biggest bottlenecks is just changing the way this industry thinks, kind of full circle what I was saying earlier. The people, they know what they know. Mm-hmm. As I did when Kyle shared this, and I really didn't think for 1 second that he was going down this path that was going to lead to where we are today. But, changing the way they think, we're not a container home. We are a still built home. We're better, stronger, faster, and we can do that for less money. And getting people to really understand that is a challenge, just changing their traditional construction mindset and educating them the right way.
I love that. There's possibilities that you guys mentioned, Kyle, 10,000 square foot houses to little options. But go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, just to dovetailing that is, anytime you're doing something innovative, innovation always takes longer than what you anticipate. Mm-hmm. We've been working at this for 3 years, and only the last 6 months have we finally felt like we've had a product to go to market with. And so that's a long time. There's a lot of, sorting out and figuring out and trying to, is this going to work, and how can we make it work and still be, structurally sound and not just equal to. We talk about that often, but we're not just equal to, we are better. And figuring out how to make that work and the education behind it, and just exploring and visiting with people. And that there's skepticism, and then there's these phrases like modular or pre-manufactured that have these these bad voodoo, stay away from this stuff, and that's not what we are either. We're built on site. We don't show up and drop a box. And so that education has been critical in helping get through that. That's the bottleneck that we're dealing with. We don't have, like we said, everything's a great story. Well, there's not enough of what we're doing out there right now to have people telling this story, but it's coming. I mean, chapter 1's being written right now. And so then we will have a story to be told, and stories get told forever. I mean, I'm excited for the first story to be told about what this person did, or this individual that's got one of the structure homes, and what their process was, and sharing that with other people. We had some clients in here a couple days ago, and before they left, they called their parents and said, "Hey, Mom, Dad, you guys are getting ready to build a house. Stop everything. You need to talk to Kyle and Mike. This is incredible." And within 30 minutes, we got a message from them and a set of plans from them. And so, it really is going to be, something that changes the industry. And to be a part of that, I mean, that's wild.
That's awesome. And I love it because of my roots in the construction industry. Now, when it comes to you guys' messages, your messaging and outreach and marketing systems, what's been working well, and where do you feel the gaps and frustrations?
Again, the same thing. We're kind of beating this up, but it's been education. It's just been trying to educate people. We market on Facebook, for example, and we get inundated with phone calls. And the phone calls are a series of similar, like-minded questions. Wait a second, you can't really do that for that price. What is it that you're doing? What are we missing here? How does that process work? Is it financeable? Can we get a loan on this? And those are all valid questions because of some of the misunderstandings that are associated with steel structures or container homes, which again, we're not. And so we actually had an appraiser and a group of lenders come out and tour our site so they could see, what our building looks like, and go through the building. And everybody asked tons of questions, and they were super impressed with the ideas and the concepts. But really, it comes down to, are we able to finance these? And one of the lenders, just kind of said, "Hey, Mr. Appraiser, what type of deductions is this home going to have compared to a stick-built home?" And the appraiser looked at him and said, "Zero. If there was a history of these homes, most likely I'm going to send for more, because there's just nothing to compare it to. It's built on site, same as a traditional stick-built home." And it was awesome to see, the jaws drop on some of these lenders. They went from, "I don't know if we're going to be able to make this work," to, as soon as the session was finished, "Hey, Kyle, what do we got to do to be a preferred lender? We want to work with you. Tell us what you need. How can we help?" So all of that's just an educational process, and that's part of the marketing and messaging that we're trying to get out, is that we are very different as far as quality and end product, but the same process as far as building from the ground up on a foundation, just like a stick-built home.
When their perspective drastically changes is when they can see it and touch it and feel it. When they come into our building, into a home, then it's real, and it's like, oh my gosh, so often they still can't quite believe it, but when they see it and touch it, then it's reality, and you see the lights come on, and that's fun.
That's awesome. Now, with just shifting gears here, with all the talk around AI and automation and using it, how have you guys found ways to utilize it internally, and where do you still see opportunity?
Yeah. That's a great question. I actually come from that world, from the software world, before I came here, and tech in general. Years with Mike Ruffell Gateway, and took a span doing a bunch of other businesses, and most recently for the last 5 years was in software, and it's all about AI. And really came to a point where it was if we don't use AI, we're going to be left behind. Well, that is absolutely no different here. If we don't use AI, we will be left behind. And so we are an AI first driven company. But what we do, how we do it is driven by AI, and it's becoming more and more like that every day. A typical home builder will take 2 to 6 weeks to get plans back and go through all their design tools and fabrication and systems, and we're getting very close to a point to where we can do that in minutes, and take their thoughts and their ideas and what they want and have it there for them within minutes. And wow, and I would say that's just the tip of the iceberg, Taylor. Like,
wow,
sure, we will be innovative. We will make mistakes along the way. We will do things that are not perfect, but using AI and being that driven, or having that drive us, it will be revolutionary.
Yeah, even the concept of, we mentioned how small our organization is. Mm-hmm. AI has afforded us the ability to operate as if we were a much larger organization, a corporation, where we're able to get more done in the hours that we have, and not just more done, but better. We're able to produce renderings, floor plans, elevations. AI is a huge tool in what we're doing. And the thing that's really crazy is when you start thinking about what AI's potential is going to be in the real estate development building world, right? I mean, imagine when you have a piece of ground and you're able to input the zoning, stipulations for that acreage, any infrastructure constraints, and then have AI generate the most efficient plan as far as development plan, number of lots, space utilization, and building design that's going to utilize the space the best and give the developer, investor the best bang for their buck, in addition to making the prices affordable for the end home buyer. Like, it's crazy that is not that far away. And being a part of that, particularly on the home side, I mean, come on, that sounds super fun.
Ooh, there's not a day we don't go by that we don't have to pinch ourselves like that. Did we really just do that with AI? Is that really possible? And I think a lot of people are sitting in the chairs and they're using chat, as their new Google, and that's okay. But what it can really do is so far beyond that I think those that are sitting in this room don't even realize, what can happen.
Yeah. Now, when you guys think about the next stages of the business, what are you most excited about?
Oh, dude, this has been so fun, because anything that you have to work your ass off for is like the results when they come. There's nothing better. I mentioned I've been a coach for a long time, and I've taught that to all of my players that it takes what it takes. And as an adult, we don't experience some of those things so much, in the sports world or in, studying as much. But in the business world, it takes what it takes, and nothing ventured, nothing gained. And so this has been, it's been a grind for 3 years. It's still a grind right now. But what excites me is being able to think about how affordable housing doesn't just affect the end home buyer and their ability to buy a house. Affordable housing opens the door for that family to have extra money to maybe go do something on the weekend, to maybe put their kids into some sport activities or whatever arts that they enjoy that they couldn't afford to do before, maybe to save up for a rainy day, maybe to go on a vacation, like just to enjoy life. So it's not just about helping somebody be able to buy a home that's energy efficient, that's built by steel, but you can change, like, communities. You can have an impact on, yeah, maybe it is the world, but knowing that you're going to help somebody. Most people's number one asset at retirement is their home. And there's so many people right now who are missing out on that opportunity, right? And so being able to be impactful in that way, like, my kids call me a softie. I can cry over any good movie. But like, and Mike mentioned this, of course we want to make money, but it's not the most important thing. Creating an opportunity and a system that is scalable. Projects will come and go, right? But something that's a system that's scalable, that can be replicated and duplicated over and over again. And being a part of that, and where you can actually change people's lives, change their opportunity to even create wealth or generational wealth, like, man, that's powerful. And I'm so excited to see that element. We met with these same clients. They were young, and their idea that they were going to be able to buy a home, it was 10 years down the road from now. And they left here understanding that we can do this. It was so rewarding. It was amazing.
That stuff definitely excites me. And one of my favorite things about this is our yin and yang relationship. And we can land in a lot of places where we're exactly the same. I would say the thing that really excites me, though, is scalability and our ability to scale anywhere. We're building home in Hawaii. It just doesn't matter. These meetings that I've talked about, people are like, can you do these? Can you do this?
In the Carolinas,
50 complex in the Carolinas. And the answer is absolutely. We're building a system that is scalable, duplicatable, repeatable, and not unlike the McDonald's of the world. And they figured out a system that is exactly the same everywhere they go, and we're able to do that. And I get really excited when I think about that, and still the ability to be so precise and so strong and bigger, better, stronger for a more affordable price.
I love that. And you're hitting so many points as you go across the nation with the different things, like the termites certain areas really struggle with, the weather, the fire hazards, the insulation value, like all these problems adjust, and you can adjust to each one of those. It's not like you're stuck to one little niche, one little state. That's impressive.
It's funny that when you make these comments, Ted, because that's the kind of things that we hear all the time, just excitement, and they start helping us market and sell and with all their ideas. And it is crazy. I've never been part of an organization ever where we're having so much success with no success yet. We have houses being built, we have buildings, but so many people are in the exact same spot where they're just pulling the trigger, and they're so, one thing we have to do is we have to be prepared for this scale and to be able to scale the right way.
Yeah. On that point, if you guys had to pick one constraint to focus on and solve over the next 90 days, what would it be?
Inside the business?
Yeah.
Or you're talking globally?
Well, I guess you could do both if you want, but the business.
Inside the business, I think something that's extremely difficult right now is managing the growth and trying to figure out how to do it and how to do it the right way, within what we're capable of doing. We do have, as Mike indicated, we haven't had a bad meeting yet. We haven't had somebody come in and sit down and go through the process and say, you know what, I don't think this is for me. And so trying to figure out how to streamline the process of, strategically, it adds to it, like making sure that we have additional supply chains and strategic relationships with people, not just for product and materials, but lenders, investors, developers, municipalities, governments that are starting to source us and reach out to us. So trying to make sure that we can keep that chain streamlined and running efficient as we're trying to grow at the same time.
Wow. That's amazing. Now, for those who want to learn more, they can reach out. So they go to the website, maybe LinkedIn, other places. And I know you guys, you mentioned in the beginning, do shipping containers. That's a different website, different company. But osscontainers.com is that's a different organization versus the structuredhomes.com, correct?
Correct.
That's correct. And structuredhomes.com/achieve, that's actually the best place for them to go. And we want to take care of your customers. We'll anybody who's listening, we'll take care of them because we love and appreciate you, Taylor. And we'll take care of them regardless. But we do plan to enter them into a drawing. Anybody that comes, and if they request some information or they set up a meeting, we're going to enter them into a drawing for $100 Amazon gift card. And we just want to say thank you to you and thank you to them for listening and putting up with our jokes and
Thank you guys so much. No, I appreciate that. So again, that's STRXURE homes.com/achieve. Thank you. And thank you to our sponsors of today's episode, Achieve a Fractional, which provides a fractional executive leadership for growing businesses. And if you enjoyed today's episode, share it with a friend, with a contractor, with anybody who's looking at building a house who feels stopped. Reach out to Kyle and Mike and the team, and they will show you how it is attainable, and not only attainable, but it's desirable. It is a beautiful home. I've looked at their website. I've looked at their plans. I can vouch for them. So reach out to them, and we will see you on the next episode of the Achieve Podcast.